And hello, everybody. It is your host, as always, Leafy. And right away, I can probably imagine that this looks a little bit different than it normally does, and that is intentional because I'm doing something a little different than I normally do. I decided, for the sake of having some creative time and having something to break up the contin- I'm saying continuity. The monotony. Well, monotony, quote unquote. To just do something a little bit different. I decided, hey, that sounds fun. I figured this would be a good opportunity for me to do some work on one of my stories. So, for context, uh, over on YouTube, besides stream archives, I have this ongoing chapter series called The Original Curse. It's a story I've written on DeviantArt. It's the story itself is finished, but by now I have about, I believe, 9 chapters. Actually, let me double check that before I start trying to sound like I know stuff. Like, I know my story, I just don't remember how many chapters I've posted. I think it's 9. Where's the last one? Yeah, I have 9 up. So that make the one I'm working on now chapter 10. But yeah, it's an audio comic thing. It's not anything like too well, not too special, but like too interesting. It's just a comic series I've been working on that I felt was fun. And I figured, you know what? Why not have some fun? And one week, just kind of do some work for you, Like, just art on stream. Now, hopefully, here in a bit, I'm going to have some co-hosts to actually make conversation. And I'm not going to be doing the thing I've seen other like artist streams do and have music. As much as I would like to, I'm not going to do that, mostly because I don't count. I kind of want my channel to not be murdered by copyright. Because I don't know any, like, good music that's not copyrighted up the ass. I'm sure there's options for, like, non-copyright stuff. But that is a risk I do not feel like playing with. Could I do it? Could I do it? Maybe. Do I want to? No. I want my channel to not die. Alright, give me a second while I pull up the... Because what I normally do is I look at the chapter I'm currently working on, in this case, chapter 10, and grabbing the, grabbing a reference so that I look at a couple, like, bits and pieces of the written chapter and draw for it, you know? I put some art in it. So I know, like, what I'm actually working on, you know? Oh, no, wait. No, this is chapter 11. I haven't posted chapter... Chapter 10's done. I just haven't gotten to anything like the voice acting and whatnot. Alright, where is it? Alright. Alright. Now, I also want to preface. I currently have... I'm drawing with Clip Studio Paint, if it's not obvious. But I currently have the art software on the TV in front of me, which I don't normally do. I usually have the art program on my computer and monitor right next to me. So this is brand new. I don't usually use the TV. So if it looks like I don't know what I'm doing, it's probably because I don't. Like, if it looks and talks like a duck, chances are, yeah, it might be a duck. I don't know. But yeah, like, this chapter, I've already got a few panels. Like, the intro. Stuff like that, you know. Excuse me. I'm not gonna pretend like my art is, like, the best thing in the world. Like, no. Yeah, no, like, objectively, my art, not all that fantastic. At the same time, though, I have fun with it, so what do I care? Like, that's kind of the motto, usually, like, try and follow. Is like, as long as you're having fun with it. And I certainly do. I love what I do. Even if it's, like, bad. Because even if it's bad, you're still having fun with it. And so who cares? Alright. Also, before I get any, like, artists trying to come in, like, yeah, I'm aware of the fact that I'm not a great artist. Like, I don't need anyone trying to come in and tell me that. I know this. I am very aware of the fact that my art skills are... But at the same time, though, I don't really care. Because like I said, you just have fun with it. But as long as you're having fun at the end, who cares? All I do is I just have fun and I try and make it look the best I can. Because that's all I really can do. That's all I really want to do. Also, before someone says it, yes, I am aware that this character I'm currently drawing looks a lot like the puppet. Once again, I know this, but also, Have you? But also, this guy's this early design. Like here, I can actually show you. This fucker's early design. Where's your? Where is it? Is it basis? Yeah, like. This is the old design. This is what this fucker used to look like. But then I gave him a better design that actually made him look somewhat original. Right here. And it's actually good now, so... I know, it's like, I'm not really... I'm not gonna pretend like I'm Picasso. Or like I'm some sort of creative madman, and I always know what I'm doing. Quite frankly, I'm usually flying by the seat of my pants. To a degree. I've talked about this before on other streams. But what I usually don't... How do I describe this? I know I've done it before. What I usually do is, like, not quite writing as I go, but I have, like, certain ideas of what I want to happen. And then later on, I'll think, okay, if X happens, then... Like, I have point A and point B. It's the how to get there that's usually up for some form of a debate. Well, debate, quote unquote. More just like up for interpretation. Yeah, that's the more appropriate word, interpretation. And same with Original Curse, actually, because there was quite a bit of that story that I had written that I was like, okay, I know I want this specific thing to happen, but what drives the story to get there? And I'm sure there are like some fancy creative writer types in either the chat or the future comment section that could be able to tell me it's like, oh yeah, it's like your story sucks. Like, yeah, I know this, but I enjoy it. And honestly, I think the Original Curse is probably one of the best things I've ever made. Because to me, it kind of feels like a not gripping's not the right word because that's not technically it. I'm bad at thinking of words. I'm bad at thinking of words. But I think it's one of the best ones because it's interesting. But you can definitely tell the FNAF inspiration. I don't try to like hide that because like I was inspired by FNAF. What do you want me to say? But it's not hard to tell. I do my best to like make it original to like me and my work specifically, but like, it's not hard to tell. Like I had inspiration. Case in point, this fucker. Because like yeah, you can really tell that this guy was inspired by the puppet. I like to think I made it somewhat more of my originality. And to borrow a quote from JT Music with their hat tricks, original. You can't have innovation without anything to take from. Like you call me derivative, so is all of creation. That looks terrible. I'm gonna be honest. I used to do on paper art, and as good as it was, I have been spoiled by undo buttons. Like I have been completely spoiled by an undo button. It's fantastic. And I will not apologize because I appreciate the undo button. You know, that usually looks so much better than I normally do it. I should have done that. I should have been doing that sooner. Although I'm not. Hmm. Let me bring up that. Let me bring up his design again. Yeah, because I did not make that nearly tall enough. Alright. This is why you want references. This is why you always want references to what you're working on. Just to make sure you're being, like, loyal to the designs. Not loyal, but you know what I mean. Faithful, that's the word I'm looking for. Faithful. Because, like, even if they're your own design, you still want to be, like, consistent. I had some, wait, hold on, I'm making this harder than I need to. Okay, there you go. I've got some, conversation topics I thought of just so I can make this, like, somewhat conversational so I don't just end up rambling. But, let's say first up, ultimate comfort game. Like, what's that one game you always find yourself coming back to for just, like, relaxation? Something you can always, like, you got that bad day, you need something to just chill with, get maybe some frustrations out. You know, it's like, and you can just get something to do. Now, for me, um, usually I don't. Well, I usually have two answers. One is the one I actually play, and the other one is something that I just kind of like tend to. Well, I suppose three answers. I'm bad at answering questions like that with a single answer. I usually have two or three. But in this case, I have one game that I actually play, which recently has been Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. I love hack and slash games. Those are just a lot of fun. Like, I love playing hack and slash games. Because it's just simple fun to just be a one-man army. Like, you're one person against, like, an army of thousands. And you just annihilate everyone. It's glorious. Now, here's a game that I think gets, like, highly underrated. But fucking Devil Kings, back in the PS2 days, that was a good game, goddammit. And more people need to play it. I'm not saying it was, like, a perfect game or whatnot, but no, it was just a simple, like, is that question mark backward? No, it's not. Okay. I draw question marks a lot, and I always feel like I make them backward, but no. Question marks are just weird looking. But yeah, no, it was a fun game. It was simple, but again, hack and slash, what are you gonna do? Yeah, my current, like, actual play comfort game is Hyrule Warriors. The two that I don't typically, like, play, but usually come back into, like, conversation about, or just, like, thinking about, usually ends up being either, Persona 5 Royal or, some FNAF, the FNAF game of the day. Because, like, I love FNAF games. If it's not, obvious. Like, I haven't played a lot of them. I'll grant you that. Doesn't stop me from enjoying them. Because I love the concept. Like, not only the lore, because, yeah, everyone loves the lore. Well, okay, not everybody, but a lot of people like the lore. Because that's kind of the thing that brought everyone into the game, you know? Because that was what was most interesting about the series at the time. It's like, super confusing lore. Oh boy. So interesting. Much wow. And then you got people talking about the lore for fucking forever. And it was honestly just like really cool, you know? Like it's fascinating. It's interesting. It's this one I want. Okay. I usually like to kind of cheat, quote unquote, in some of my projects where I'll just like reuse assets. I wouldn't necessarily say that's cheating because a lot of things, a lot of honestly, a lot of people do that. Like, it's just efficient. Like, you already have the asset. Like, just use it again. Not usually too difficult to do. You like copy it from one place, paste it into another. That's not right. That was the wrong asset. Because I was selected off something else. God damn it. I know what I'm doing. This one. If you, I'm sure people have noticed me doing it in both, right now because I just copied that twice, but also whenever I play a game, I usually end up saving twice. That fun fact, I don't think I've told the story before, but uh, back in uh, back in May Day when the PS2 was not new. I don't think it was new back at the time. But back when the PS2 was a thing, when it was a thing that people used, what I usually did, like, I'm forgetting how to tell my own story. But back in the PS2 days, what I did in one game is Arc the Lad, Twilight of the Spirits. There was a zone at the end of the game that was just like a massive, I suppose, maze? I suppose you could call it a maze if you really wanted to. No, yeah, it was pretty maze-like. So we'll go with that. It was a maze, and yeah, you had to traverse a mountain that was like not not tear gassing. What's the word I'm looking for? The entire mountain pass, because you can't fly over them. So we had to like, I can't explain what point at the story it was because I don't remember, but you had to get to a like you had to go somewhere, and from the point that you take off in the flying ship you drive, you had to go over a mountain place or a mountain range, but the ship you're flying can't do that. Um, I think the reason was that the mountain range was just too big. Don't quote me on that. It's been quite a long time since I've played just Art the Lad in general, let alone that point in the story. But nonetheless, you can't go get over the mountain pass normally. So your only option is to go through it. And after you earn the right to actually go through it, the entire mountain pass is filled with with like a mist or gas or something that makes you hallucinate. And I specifically remember the point because the entire point of the like mist is to like just piss you off. So you become like lost on the mountain and you're never able to get across. But after earning the right to go through the pass, you do so. And it took me a long time to get through that on my first try. I think it took me like a good 3, maybe 4 hours. Not because the fights were like hard or anything. I mean, at that point they were. So like fights in the game aren't exactly speedy. Like even just like basic mook enemies, it can take a hot second for battles in that game, but nonetheless, it took me about a couple hours to get through the mountain pass. When I did, though, there's a save station at the end of it because again, very long mountain pass and very long dungeon. So I get there, I get to the end, I save the game, yeah, I got there, and then my dumbass forgot to save the game. So I shut the PS4 off, PS4, PS2 off. I left, and then when I came back to it later, I was fucking mortified to find myself at the beginning again. I was like, oh, you have got to be fucking kidding me. I remember being told, because I don't quite remember what happened afterwards. I just remember what happened on the mountain. But I remember being told, like, I was bawling for a while after that. And I'm sure, like, everyone's done that at some point. Like, you get through the super hard challenge, only to realize that you forgot to save at the end of it, meaning you have to do it all over again. Everyone's done that. But I remember being devastated. There are a couple of times back when I was just a little kid where video games got me to cry. I'm gonna tell 3 more stories about that actually because it's on my mind. One is the one. Well, 2 are about video games. One's about an anime. There's the one I just told. The anime I remember was, I believe it was the original Digimon series, like the Digimon Digital Trainers. I think it was called. I don't specifically remember if that part of the show had its own specific name. But it was basically like the first series, right? Like no like Digifusion, that kind of thing. No, it was just the original series, the one that started. And I remember watching it. And I remember the finale of it where everyone was like crying because they had to let the Digimon go back to the digital world because they couldn't stay in the real world. And I remember actually crying. Like, it was very funny. Because you get to that point, and you're just a little snot-nosed kid that doesn't know what he's doing. And then suddenly you're watching this super sad anime scene. And I remember actually crying. Like, that was actually sad at the time. Digimon was such a good show at the time. It was great. I loved it. It wasn't, like, spectacular or anything. Like, I'm not going to say it's best anime ever. But it was a fun thing to watch and to see, you know? Like, not top anime, top anime ever. That's very much not the case. But it was good. Like, it was just a good show. At the end, they actually got me to cry because of it. But anyway. There was another one. It was my first video game ever, actually. Sonic Adventure 1. And, obviously, first video game ever. I think I was like 3 or 4 at the time. But for whatever reason, I could not get it through my head that yeah, because like for whatever reason, it never was able to register for me that you could run and jump. Because like I knew you could run and I knew you could jump, but it never occurred that I can do both at once. And because of that, I was having a lot of trouble with some of the early stages, and just getting around the hub world, I believe, the world map, the Mystic Ruins. And so I was like actually crying. I was super upset. It's like, it's like I can't do it. And then my dad had to spend so much time trying to teach me, like, push forward, then press the jump button, and don't let go of the forward, and then you jump while you're running. It's very funny. I don't remember, quite frankly, any of these stories off the top of my head, because my memory is damn near useless. So I have to rely on, like, stories I've been told. But you just hear those stories, and you start to kind of realize, I was a dumb kid. But then again, what kid, like, isn't dumb? Like, that's, like, quite frankly, that's just most kids. What did I just do? What? Okay. I don't know why two of the same screenshot just blacked out. Oh, because of the filter. Because yeah, whenever I finish, because I draw all the panels before normally, and then I just coat the entire layer. I just coat an entire black layer over it, and then turn down the visibility. So that's what was happening. I am a professional. I am a complete professional. And I'm getting a psychic feeling nobody believes me when I say that, but which is valid because yeah, no, I'm not. But like I said, I have fun, so anyway. And the last time where I actually cried over a game was this actual. It was a Dragon Ball game that I actually kind of, sort of, convinced myself didn't exist. Like I sort of, I managed to convince myself it didn't exist because for the life of me I could never figure out like what the game was. I could not remember it, and so I assumed it was just one of the Budokai games because I remembered specific things about it. Like it was a 2D game. It was a 2.5D game, meaning like you fought in 2D, but the game was a 3D, so it wasn't any like Game Boy stuff. No, it was also a console game, so I knew that. But for the life of me, I could not ever figure out what the game was, so I just assumed it was just Budokai 3, because I didn't know any better. But then one day I'm looking at old Dragon Ball games. I forget who made the video, but I was looking at a video about someone covering all the Budokai games, and I came across Dragon Ball Infinite World. And for some reason, I felt like a ping in the back of my head that told me I know that name from somewhere. And so I go to do some research. I'm looking at the game, and I look at the Majin Vegeta fight in that game. It's like, that's it. That's the guy. That's that's the bastard to make me cry. Cause I was playing that game when I was a little kid, and I fought Majin Vegeta, and sweet Lord Almighty, I kept getting just obliterated left, right, and center by that guy. Like, he was evil. It was, quite frankly, absolutely absurd. I hated it. Like, it was something to be beholden. But yeah, it's like, for life, man, I could never actually beat him. Like, no matter what I tried, like, I kept my distance. I went in aggressive. I played defensively. I used items. Can you use items? I don't know. It's like, I tried everything I can think of, and no matter what, like, he just kept absolutely destroying me. And I felt like, this is bullshit. Because, like, let me win. And so I turned the game off. I had a minute. I left it for, I think, a couple days. And then one day I decided, like, you know what? Let me go back. Let me see what happens. Let me try again. And when I go back to him, like, a couple days later, I fight him. I win the second try. I was like, I only just went and won the fight. And even then, my first attempt was pretty close. So, like, I only had to just put the game down. I was like, what the hell? Like, it was absurd. Like, he was absolutely annihilating me the last time I tried it. And I come back to it, and then suddenly I'm a god. It's like, Jesus. It was great. I love that fight. I want to play Infinite World again because of that fight specifically. Cause I want to play that fight again knowing what I do now about, like, video games and how to not lose my goddamn mind. Because I played Kingdom Hearts 3 level 1. I've done that twice. I had to deal with that goddamn skull fucker. I know what I'm doing. I can play a game now, and I know I can win. So I know what I'm doing now. I just want to see what happens if I come back and beat him again. Well, I'll not beat him again. You just go along the story mode as is. You know, it's funny. I play a lot of Dragon Ball games because I love Dragon Ball. I haven't watched most of it. I've watched the entirety of the classic Dragon Ball series. And I've seen most of Z. Well, I've seen like half of it. I've seen all of the Saiyan Saga. And I've watched most of the Namek Saga, but I haven't gotten past that. But yeah, it's like, I love Dragon Ball. Oh, shit. You didn't see that. Like, I've watched most of Dragon Ball. Or I've played a lot of Dragon Ball games. And I haven't watched most of it. I'm sure that's like a common thing for people that play games about a show they've never watched. Because, like, oh, I love where this comes from. I just haven't actually seen it myself. Is that a common thing, actually? Because, like I said, I know I've done it. Because I've done that with Dragon Ball. So, like, I played a lot of the Dragon Ball games. Have not watched a lick of the anime. And I suppose I could technically get away with saying I've done the same with Pokemon. Because I played a lot of the Dragon Ball, I play a lot of the Pokemon games. Well, a lot. Like, I've played pretty much everything since X and Y. because X and Y are my first Pokemon games. So I've played everything since X and Y. Except one game, but I don't remember what it was. I remember one Pokemon game coming out between X and Y now that I remember looking at and like, yeah, I'm not right. Oh, no, actually, it was Pokemon Unite. I looked at that and yeah, I did play it for a hot second, but I was like, yeah, I can't really get into it. It's not a bad game or anything, like by any stretch of the imagination. It just didn't quite tickle my fancy, if you know what I mean. Like, it's an alright game, and I can see why people love it. Well, I'm just not one of those people. Although I did appreciate using Greninja in it. I appreciate my boy. Like, Greninja is my favorite Pokemon. And yes, it being my very first started Pokemon has something to do with it. Like, he's my starter. He's like, I gotta give loyalty to my boy. Also, I just want to talk about a pet peeve I have with Scarlet and Violet. It is an absolute crime that Battle Bond Greninja does not transform. Because Greninja's in the game, and if you trade one in, you can get a Greninja with Battle Bond in Scarlet and Violet. You can do the transformation. You can achieve Battle Bond by knocking out a Pokemon. So it's like, it's no question that you can get the Battle Bond boost. But then once you do so, you just get stat boosts. And like, I get it, but I also don't. Because that's kind of the point of Battle Bond. It's supposed to be Ash Greninja, not Greninja, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, what the hell? Like, if you're gonna include the ability, you include the fucking ability. That's actually something else that bugs me about Scarlet and Violet. Because, like, let me just preface this, and I'm pretty sure I've said it during my Team Sky playthrough. But I love Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Those are my favorite Pokemon games, hands down. If not, for no other reason than the story mode. That game's story was goddamn divine. At least compared to, like, normal Pokemon games. Because normally it's like, go beat up people. Go beat up gym leaders. Collect badges. Like, go get badges and whatnot. And, like, that's about it. Because, like, you're only really there for one thing. And that's, like, go get badges. Go beat up an evil team. Maybe kick a legendary in the face at some point. You're not really there for any major, like, purpose, you know? Well, okay, I can't say no major purpose. Because, like, there are things that you do in the Pokemon games. But, like, for the most part, like, for most Pokemon games, it usually just boils down to go fight the gym leaders, react to whatever the evil team of the week is doing. Because they usually go for legendary Pokemon, deal with a legendary Pokemon. Like, it's usually the same wash, rinse, repeat kind of thing. With Scarlet and Violet, though, they want, like, the whole 9 yards. And, like, you still have the gym thing. Which, like, yeah, it's a Pokemon game. Can't really have Pokemon without it. But they usually don't... They usually... it doesn't get played up as much as it used to do in other Pokemon games. Because, like, the gym journey, as still important as it is, like, it's still treated as, like, a big thing. Which it still should be, because, like, fighting that many gym leaders isn't exactly a walk in the park. Because, like, it's one thing to fight, like, the first gym leader in a region. It's another thing to fight all 8. So like, yeah, it's still treated as like a impressive accomplishment, which by all intents and purposes it is. Cause like, have you seen some of the later gym leaders? Like, I feel bad for trainers in gold and silver that have to deal with fucking blue as a gym leader. Cause like, have you seen that motherfucker's team? My man is stacked. Cause I think blue is like one of the only gym leaders to not have a proper type specialty. Which sometimes is the only reason why gym leaders are like doable, is because they're easy to exploit. And even then, that's sort of not true, because sometimes they'll have like like they have some fucking trickery bullshit, like Elisa. Ah, who's the electric gym leader? In Unova. I I want to say Elisa, but I don't think that's right. It might be. Give me a second, look it up. Yeah, because now this is bugging me. But it's Unova, I know that. That's Holland. It's Sinnoh. Elisa. Okay, I was right. Yeah, Elisa in black and white. Being the electric type, she only has the one weakness, the ground, right? But then you actually get to her gym, and the fucker has two Emolga. Which, like, because of, like, it still has weaknesses, but you can't exactly sweep her with ground type, because last time I checked, flying is immune to ground. And she loves to spam Volt Switch. Now, again, I never played any version of Black and White, so I've never fought any version of Elisa. Whether that be her original Black and White team or her Black 2 White 2 team. I've never fought Elisa myself. I've only seen people do so. But whenever I've seen people do so, one of two things happens. Either one of her Emolga Volt switches into Zebstrika, or Zebstrika Volt switches into one of the Emolgas. And when those happen, you go for a ground type move on the Zebstrika, it Volt switches into Emolga, and you're not hitting anything. And you use some sort of rock move on the Emolga, and you go into Zebstrika, which, yeah, it's going to take damage. It's not weak to rock. Zebstrika is a pure electric type. And you got some other gym leaders that I forget. Like, I can't really talk about the X and Y gym leaders too much, because, like, yeah, they were all right. But even in my first playthrough, like, they really weren't all that tough. The only reason I struggled was because it was my very first Pokemon game. It's like, I had no idea what the fuck I'm doing. Like, you just hand me some battle beasts, and you tell me, like, go have fun. He's like, yeah, thanks. Can you tell me how this works? So, it took me a minute to beat them, but in hindsight, they really weren't all that tough. You know, like I said, the only reason I managed to struggle is because I had never played Pokemon before. Like, they were absolutely great games. Well, okay, not great games. X and Y were fun. It's just kind of hard to play them because of how super easy they are. That's kind of why I enjoy Pokemon Coliseum and XD so much. Is because, like, I can't, like, they're harder, not because they're bullshit, but because I think they, like, pretty fairly limit what you can do. Because of Pokemon, like, Pokemon is not a hard franchise by any stretch of the imagination. It's not, like, bullshit. Like, it's far from, like, absolute horseshit. Like, cause, yeah, like, no. It's not hard. But with Coliseum XD, you get hella limited in your battling options. And so what you end up having to do is try and like figure out like, okay, there's not really anything I can do. It's more or less um there's a word for what I'm trying to do. Or for what I'm trying to say. I know there's a word for it, but the word's not coming to mind at the moment. But basically, it's resource management, where it's like you don't get a whole lot of resources, so you have to make do with what you have. Because with Pokemon, you've got like hundreds of options. Where in Coliseum and XD, you barely get like over 50 options. And so you gotta think like, okay, if these are the only things I have, let me see what I can do with them. And then it becomes like but from that point it becomes a game of like, okay, I have this, I have, like, you look at a fight and you think, okay, let's say like this is my problem. So what resources do I have to manage that? And I think stuff like that is vastly interesting. Because at that point, it's not just like a steamroll through things with a super powered team of super effective Pokemon. It's like, no, like you got a research management. Because I remember playing, compared to my first playthrough of Coliseum and the playthrough I'm doing now, I've never used some of the Pokemon I'm using now for what I do later. Like some of the Pokemon I end up using in my original Coliseum playthrough and my playthrough now, I've never used. Like, so okay, back in my very first playthrough of Coliseum, I used the Umbreon and the Espeon from beginning to end. That's the reason why Umbreon and Espeon are two of my favorite evolutions besides Sylveon. I had used those three from beginning to end. And later on, when I came back to this playthrough I'm doing now, I intended to do the same thing because I love Espeon and I love Umbreon. And I had no better idea. Because ahead of time, before I actually started the playthrough, I looked up all the Pokemon that were available to me. Because I wanted to set my team straight. Or, more accurately, I wanted to pick half the team. Because you give me 3 fucking legendaries and you damn fucking straight I'm going to use the legends. It is 100% cheap. This is very rare. I am very aware of this. And when I come back to Pokemon Grand Coliseum, I think it was called, I don't plan to do it again. I might do. No, because I know Grand Coliseum also gives you a set. Well, I can't say I'm sure because I'm not. But I think Grand Coliseum also gives you a set of legends. No, yeah, because I was looking at the download page and it gave me versions like Kanto, Johto, and Hoenn. And I remember trying to figure out to research like what the fuck does that mean? It's like Kanto. I was like, Hoenn, what do you mean? And so I go into like a Coliseum. I went to the Pokemon Coliseum subreddit. I asked like, hey, what the fuck does this mean? And I got told like, oh, if you pick the Johto version, the 3 Cypher peons at the beginning, the red, blue, and green one, will have the Johto starters. And legendaries will be the legendary beasts. So just what the base game does. And if you go back and if you go to the Kanto version, the Cypher peons will have the Kanto starters. And what you do later is one of the ones you end up doing later. Or what am I saying? The legends are, instead of the Johto legendary beasts, they become the Kanto legendary birds. I think. Well, yeah, they kind of have to be, because you can have Mewtwo and Mew, but then who would the third one be? So yeah, it's the legendary birds. And then if you pick the Hoenn one, the 3 peons at the beginning will have the Hoenn starters. Now, when I saw the Hoenn version, I assumed, like, oh, it'll just be the weather trio, like Groudon, Kyogre, Rayquaza. Because, like, that was the thing that just seemed the most logical to me, because there's 3 legendary beasts, and there's 3 Cypher admins that give you legends. So I thought, like, okay, that's just a really easy answer. It's the weather trio. I figured it out, like, later on. No, it's not the weather trio. It's the Reggie trio, which also makes sense. And quite frankly, I might still end up using them because I've never actually used the Reggie trio. I don't think I've ever used any Reggie, actually. I might have used Reggie Alecki, like, very, very briefly in my on my own sword playthrough, because it was brand new legend. Gotta use brand new legend I just caught. So I might have done that. If I did, I don't remember it. So I could be, like, speaking absolute nonsense. Which, knowing me, chances are I am. But, yeah, like, I've never used a Reggie. So, like, even though I don't really want to, I might still end up doing that. Just for the sake of using a Pokemon I've never used. I don't know. I'll come back to deciding on that, because I'm not going to be playing Grand Coliseum for a while. But still. But then it came to the other 3 members of the team. It's like, okay, who do I use? And, like, I had initially picked the Umbreon and Espeon, because, like, well, I love Umbreon and I love Espeon. So why not use them? But then after the stream, my last Coliseum stream, after doing some grinding, I was having trouble using Jumpluff or something. I forget what I was trying to do with it. Or no, I was doing grinding to make some money. I forget specifically what I was grinding for. I think it was to catch something. It was catching Jumpluff up with the rest of the team at the time. And so I was doing that. But then I came across I was using my extra shadows so I didn't overlevel my current team, because my current team, well, everyone else, like Entei and Suicune and Umbreon and Espeon, they were at perfect levels for what I needed them to be. And I didn't want to overlevel. So I swapped out all of my current team for the backup shadows, both so I can do some grinding without worrying about my main team, and to get those purified so I can save myself time later. But then I started using Meditite. And I thought, like, okay. Well, because my last team member is a Flygon. I know that for a fact. So, if I did what I'm... If I continued the path that I was doing at the time, I'd have 5 pure types. And a Flygon, which is Ground Dragon. Which, yeah, that's type variety and all. But that's quite the lack of some types I might need. And so I'm looking, and I say, like, yeah, Meditite is Psychic Fighting. And if I want to use it, I'd have to replace Espeon with it, because ain't no way in hell I'm using 2 Psychic types. I might not be a competitive player, But what competitive Pokemon has taught me is that you don't use two Pokemon of the same type. Unless they have, like, no weakness overlaps. Which Umbreon and which Espeon and Meditite and slash Medicham absolutely do. They have quite a well, okay, not quite a few weakness overlaps, but they do overlap a bit in terms of weaknesses. So using both doesn't really make sense. And also considering the fact that this is Gen 3, like Coliseum, I didn't mean to do that. Coliseum is still a Gen 3 game. There's not really a whole lot of moves to choose from, especially considering they're both Psychic type. So at worst, I just have two Psychic. So at best, I just have two Psychic types who can do the exact same thing. Yeah, excuse me. I gotta drink my water real quick. Oh. Well, I say drink my water. It's more like eat my water. Because before the stream, I got one of the Dunkin' tea things. But anyway. But yeah, it's like, I just end up having two Psychic types. One of which does a lot more than the other one. Like, I realized they have different, not occupations, but different uses. But it was too much of an overlap for me to be comfortable, so, like, I had to pick. And then also, if I did that, like, oh, okay, I don't want to use one evolution without the other. So, like, who do I replace Umbreon with? Or, no. I had the thought, because, like, okay, well, if the main choice is Medicham or Espeon. I could have kept Umbreon if I wanted to, but I figured, well, if I'm gonna use not Umbreon or not Espeon, I probably should replace the Umbreon anyway for the sake of variety. And so I actually decided to keep the Jumpluff in place of Umbreon if I decide to go with Medicham. And I spent debating on that for a while. Like, it took me a decent amount of time before I managed to make my decision. And as I probably already said, I did end up deciding to go with Medicham and the Jumpluff over Umbreon and Espeon. Both because I wanted the fighting type. Because, like, as cool as Umbreon is, or as cool as Espeon is, I wanted that fighting stab for some of the fights that come later in the game. Especially one of the last fights that has a fucking slacking that gets Truant taken off of it. Which, can I just address real quick, is kind of absolutely insane. Like, it's one thing for a rematch to do that, but that's the first fight. Like, yeah, it's the final boss, so it's like, of course it's gonna be difficult. But that's not even a rematch of the fight. That's the first time. Like, if you get slacking and slow king on the they're both kings. Like, if you get slacking and slow king on the same fight, or on the same out at the same time, is what I'm trying to say. In that fight, slacking is gonna get rid of Truant. I don't remember what ability it gets off of the Slowking, but it's not Truant, and that's kind of the thing that matters. So that slacking just becomes a god. And because of pretty much that slacking alone, as well as like some of the other normal types that come up, because normal types aren't all that incredible especially back in Gen 3. But what they certainly made up for in lack of weaknesses. Like, yeah, normal type is supposed to be that jack of all trades, master of none type. But it doesn't matter what kind of jack of all trades you are if you can't be hit. Like, yeah, like a lot of things can hit normal for neutral damage. Pretty much everything hits normal for neutral damage besides fighting, which normal is weak to, and ghost, which normal is immune to. So besides those two types, you're gonna hit it neutrally. But then you get some really powerful normal types, like, again, slacking. And then you just have that issue of like, well, okay, I have to deal with this. And then, like I said, I also just decided to throw on Jump Bluff for shits and giggles. And also, Sleep Powder is actually a really good move, especially for said non-truant slacking. Because if you manage to get a truant off on, or a Sleep Powder off on that thing, it's pretty helpless. Assuming your luck is like pretty decent. And one, you manage to outspeed the thing, and two, you actually manage to hit the fucking Sleep Powder. So it's pretty helpful, actually, to have... not just to be able to win fights more, but also, when you do that, it'll be helpful to catch Pokemon more. Because, actually, because I only learned this a couple months ago. But sleep is the better status condition for catching. Because, as far as I believe, as far as I'm aware, any status condition will increase your catch rate. But sleep does so especially. Because, like, burn will help, like, a tiny bit. Paralysis helps a bit. But sleep is, like, the best one because it improves your catch rate the most. Now, don't quote me when I say that burn helps, because I don't know if it does. I don't see why it would. Like, I don't see why it would help. Because, like, with paralysis, like, the Pokemon's paralyzed. It's not going to be able to exactly go anywhere quickly. Plus, it just can't move at all sometimes. So, yeah, like, that's something in and of itself. Well, sleep, though, like, Pokemon is just straight up asleep. Does freeze do anything? I just had the thought, what does freeze do? I can't imagine freeze would do the same because... You know what? I just had the thought. Back in Pokemon, in Gen 1, Red and Blue, I remember hearing that freeze was permanent. Like, you get frozen and you're just stuck until you manually heal it. Or certain moves happen. I remember hearing that. But nowadays, the Pokemon just has a chance to thaw itself. So, if that's the case, then riddle me this, Batman. What's the difference between freeze and sleep? Because you're immobile, you can't do anything, and every turn there's a chance for you to not be frozen or not be asleep. So, like, what's the difference? That's a good question, actually. What is the difference? Oh, snore and sleep talk, though. Okay, so from what I'm seeing, sleep takes less time, but is more likely to wake up early. As well, moves like snore and sleep talk still work. So you're not like entirely helpless. Whereas with freeze, you can't do anything at all, and it could potentially last longer. But there's more ways to like make it end sooner. Because yeah, you can use like a specific list of fire moves. Because I know it's like a tiny specific list of moves, but like what determines it? Also, I hate to do this, but I have to run for a second. So I am going to be right back. Enjoy my theme song. Sorry about that. But I am returned. Now, what was I talking about? I have no idea what I was talking about. Oh, Pokemon. But yeah, it's like I'm looking at it, it's like there's a couple like Flame Wheel, Sacred Fire, Scald, Fusion Flare, Flare Blitz, Steam Eruption, Burn Up, and Pyro Ball. Now those make sense, right? Because fire type moves, and the only two non-fire type moves there are Scald and Steam Eruption, which also makes sense because Scald is because they're both like superheated water. So like it still makes sense. They're not fire, but they're like fire water, you know what I mean? So like, it still makes sense. My question is why that just doesn't apply to any fire type move. Especially moves like Flare Blitz and Flame Charge. Well, a Flame Charge more specifically. Because yeah, Flare Blitz is here, which makes sense. You coat the Pokemon in fire. Like, to use Flare Blitz, the Pokemon coats themselves in flames. And like, if that... I did all that coloring and I forgot to make a new layer. God damn it. Professional, I am not. Anyway. Anyway, as I was saying. You look at that and you think like, yeah, you coat the Pokemon in fire and that Pokemon is just already coated in ice. So you have a layer of flames between the Pokemon and the ice around them. That's going to melt the Pokemon right. That's just going to melt that Pokemon right quick. But again, that kind of logic goes for any fire type move. Because, like, you're not necessarily coating yourself in flames to make it happen. But fire is fire. Like, fire is fire. Fire is hot. I should know. One time in a cooking class I had back in high school, I accidentally touched a stove I was working with. And, like, I had a blister on my hand for fucking days. It was miserable. So, yeah, it's like, heat is hot. As one John would put it, heat is hot. Yeah, maybe. I'm not going to pretend I understand Pokemon, because sometimes it just makes no sense. That's kind of why I also like Pokemon, though. Because, like, it's that fun kind of absurd. That's why I plan to, at some point, do the Too Many Types Pokemon game. Because I know that was like a ROM of Emerald, I think. And you have like all these different sorts of Pokemon. All these different types. And it's like, you go through that not knowing anything about it, you're pretty much playing Pokemon all over again. And I think that's fun. Because like, you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. So you just gotta do that again. And it's just interesting. If you can't tell, I like Pokemon. It's not like my favorite game ever. No, I actually wrote down my top 5 favorite favorite video games because I knew I'd forget it if I didn't. Not what the games are, just what order I put them in. and I actually remember off the top of my head right now for once. Number one, Persona 5 Royal, hands down. That is the best game I've ever played. Like, you can't tell me otherwise. It's like, it's such a good game. Like, even just ignoring the story for a second. Because, yeah, I'm going to be quite frank. Which is hard to do because that's not my name. But I love Persona 5 Royal. Mostly because of the story. Like, the story in that game is fucking amazing. Not perfect. Definitely not perfect. Like, with Royal especially, it's not perfect. Because actually, one of my biggest pet peeves with Royal is that they take some of the Royal editions and throw them out because the original didn't have them. It's like, I get it. You're trying to tell the story of the original game, but you end up ignoring so many cool things about it. I point out, I specifically point out Kasumi and Akechi. Because, well, no, Akechi makes more sense. You know, Akechi makes more sense. It's Kasumi specifically that kind of ends up bugging me. Because the whole thing with Kasumi and why she doesn't join... excuse me. Your, the team as soon as she gets her persona is because of the fact that she wants to focus on her gym training, which by all means is completely legit and good for her. Like, I'm not here to shit on her dreams, but I kind of don't like that she. Okay, let me be a bit more specific. Early on when she first awakens to her persona, I completely understand her not wanting to join the team. I still don't quite understand it myself. But I'm not going to say, like, it's a bad decision. Because, by all accounts, no, it's not. Like, I get why she made the decision. As much as I think it's still kind of dumb. There is a pretty valid reason for her doing so. So, fair enough, right? But when it comes to Shido's Palace specifically, though, I kind of hate her getting sidetracked, or not sidetracked, but like cast out. Because again, let me preface, like, I understand why, right? At least in terms of the real world, because like they wanted to keep the game consistent, right? They wanted to have the same story between the original Persona 5 and Royal. So like I get that part, right? That makes sense. What I fail to understand is why that would happen in universe. Cause when you think about it, in because the only reason she doesn't join you for Shido's Palace is because Morgana and Ren tell her not to. And, like, she goes to them. She says, like, I'm in to join. Like, I'm ready. I got this. But because they're going to Shido's Palace, they turn her down. Now, make no mistake. Completely valid. Completely understandable reason. Like, they have no idea what the fuck they're getting themselves into with Shido's Palace specifically. So I understand turning her down, right? Like, that makes sense. Like, that is a risky place to go to. They have no idea what's going to happen to them. If they're even going to get out of it alive. completely valid understanding. I get it. But she still offers to go anyway. And basically says, like, if you need me, come call me. And that's great and all. But the thing I don't understand is why they didn't just take her in. Because, like, in my mind, it would have made more sense. Like, yeah, this is risky, but also any hand on deck we can get is gonna help us. So why not bring her in? Because, like, again, it makes sense for some of it. Because, like, yeah, okay. There's an issue or two with having her on because, like, she's a new person. And by that point, she's only experienced her persona, like, once. So, again, fair reasoning. Excuse me. Fair reasoning for turning her down. I still don't really like it, though. And I say that for, well, the reason I just mentioned. Like, the why of it makes sense. It just bugs me that, like, it happened. Because, like, if they were concerned about her safety, what they could have done was do, like, what they did with, like, Yusuke or Makoto when they first joined. Just, like, effectively, like, be bodyguards, you know? Now, I'm not about to say, like, they shouldn't have, I'm not saying, like, they should have brought her on, because, again, the reasoning makes sense, right? Like, I get the why. I get the reasoning. It just sort of... It's just sort of a Persona 5 pet peeve that I had with the game's story. I could be the weird one when I'm talking about that. Or not when I'm talking, but like for that, I could be the odd one out. But I still think they should have brought her on board. Because like I said, like this is Masayoshi Shido's palace. Like, none of them have any idea what they're getting themselves into. So it just makes sense to have, like, more hands on deck. Even if those hands are less experienced than the rest of them. Plus, if memory serves, she only asked, like, at the beginning of the Messiah, at the beginning of the set, at the beginning of Shido's arc, doesn't she? And even then, even if she did manage to ask, like, as they were going into getting the treasure, it still would have been helpful. Because, like, make no mistake about it, Kazumi's a smart cookie. And even at that point, because she was still Sumire at the time, like, Kasumi wasn't a thing yet, she's still a smart cookie. Like Sumire is a smart girl. Whether or not she's being manipulated by Maruki or not. She's still smart, so she would have been helpful. And actually, I don't know why I just thought about it randomly, but that kind of brings me to another pet peeve I have with Persona 5. That scene with the Phantom Thief girls just beating up Ryuji after they thought he was dead. I get why they did that. Well, no, I can't really say that because I don't. Because, like, I don't get why that happened. Because, like, I get they were concerned about him and they're angry at him for letting them think he died. But at the same time, though, like, My man just kind of almost sacrificed himself for you, and you're beating the shit out of him. Like, why? I don't know. It was a strange story decision that I'm not going to pretend to understand. Not like it was a bad decision, it was just a very strange one. But then again, that scene is also very funny, so. Like, if nothing else, it's humorous. I drew that way too big. I'm pretty bad with scale in scenes like this. Because I usually end up making things look way too small or way too big. Or somehow both. I forget what the drawing was, but I remember making a drawing once where I managed to make something look far too small, but also far too big. I used to be pretty bad with heads. Like, drawing somebody's head, they usually ended up looking like too small every single time. And for the life of me, I can never figure out why. Well, but I mean, besides the obvious answer of I'm just not an excellent artist, which, I don't really care about. I'm not perfect, but I'm also not trying to be. Like, I'm fully aware that there are probably some better artists out there. In fact, I know there are better artists out there. I look to actually the artist. Did I credit her in my channel at all? Or not credit her in my channel, but like, do I mention her at all in? Yeah, I do. Under. I don't actually. Why didn't I? That's kind of embarrassing, and I need to do that after the stream. But the person that usually makes some of my assets for my channels, especially on my YouTube channel, because most of the video banners you'll see around my video are usually made by her. Not because I can't do it, because like obviously the first version of my Coliseum banner and the banner you're seeing right now I made. So it's not like I can't do it. I'd usually lend them to her, both because I love her art style, and so I wanted to have more of it featured on my channel. But also because I wanted to help her out with stuff, because she, quite frankly, loves collecting adoptable characters, and I'm not going to pretend like I understand why, but she does, and so I do my best to try and help her out with that whenever I can. And so that's why I usually like bought stuff from her, so she could afford stuff like that. Is a strange thing to want to do, but who am I to call a spade a spade? Who am I to call a spade when I am also a spade? Like, that'd just be hypocritical. Sort of. I don't really collect adoptable characters. I can really only think of 3 characters that I've collected. That, like, I haven't made specifically. There are characters that I've made that I've actually been thinking about selling off. But I don't usually collect characters. I've only done so 3 times. And all 3 were from my artist, actually, for the sake of, like, helping her out. Which, in hindsight, is actually very funny. But, those 3 were from her. and making it too big. And those were Citrus, Richie, and someone else. I think there was a third one, but I don't remember who it was. I don't remember who it was, but Citrus and Richie weren't characters that I've designed aren't mine, or they weren't designed by me. I should actually show because I don't think I've ever shown them on the channel. Probably not. Anyway, uh, yeah, this is Richie. This is a character I bought. I think back in like 2023 or two, one of those years, a couple years ago. And I basically bought them because like I thought the design was neat and they were a FNAF animatronic that I thought I could incorporate into my animatronic band. So I felt like, hey, you know what, just grab it, see what I can do with it. This design isn't actually Richie's original design. I don't have any of his original design images on hand, but Richie actually was originally a glam rock animatronic that I kind of retrofitted to not only be fitting in with the rest of my team, but also I turned him into a tigerfish because like he's a tiger, and I knew tigerfish were a thing. And so I thought it'd be fucking hilarious if I designed him to not be a tigerfish, like the actual sea creature, but a tiger fish. Like a hybrid between a tiger and a fish. I'm a goddamn genius. But anyway. And the other one, who should be somewhere, not here. I don't have her things, but yeah, this is the other one, Citrus. Actually, a fun fact about Citrus: she is supposed to be like the inverse of my main character, Leafy. She was designed to be Leafy's opposite. So like, Leafy's a wolf dragon, so she's a cat angel. Leafy has dragon wings, so she has angel wings. Leafy's design has a bunch of stars on it, so there's a bunch of hearts. Cute design. And very fun design theme. I like it. I don't remember why I bought Citrus, actually. That's a good thought, actually. Why did I buy Citrus? I think it was because I remember hearing talk of her being sold because... Do I tell that story? I don't think that's the story I'm going to tell. Not because it's, like, personal, but because... Well, okay, maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit because it's personal, but not, like, in a bad way. It's just sort of... That's not completely my story to tell, and so I don't quite feel comfortable telling it without her being here. Like, yeah, it is sort of my story to tell because obviously I'm involved in it. But I don't quite want to tell that story without her being here, you know what I mean? But regardless, there was talk of her being sold. And so I figured, like, I didn't want that because I loved the design and the design concept. So I decided to buy her character and retrofit her to also be a part of my animatronic band. Not because I had to necessarily, but more just I felt it was better to do that than her be sold to someone who's just not going to use her at all. That's actually another reason why I bought Richie. Because she wasn't using him at all, and so decided to sell him off because, like, you have a character design, you at least might as well make some money off of it. Or get something else in return. And I figured, like, okay, it'd be fun to use these designs. I can figure out how to make them work. And so that's exactly what I did. And honestly, I think I love the design I ended up giving Richie. Like he's definitely one of my favorite characters to draw. Well, I say draw, but more um design. So, for I suppose context. Yeah, for context, something I like to do is wait, hold on. I need to back out a bit and picture a scene in my head. Okay. Yeah, something I've been doing for a while. I didn't do it for a while. A couple not years ago, but for a while I haven't done was design versions of my animatronic band, because something I did a long time ago back in my early high school years was I designed different versions of Leafy to fit a bunch of different character designs. I did some like canon FNAF ones, like I made a Wizard design, a Phantom, Nightmare, that sort of thing. I did some fan made designs like the Ignite. Like I did Ignited. I did Burnt. I did. Uh, I borrowed from Dormitibus and had a Havoc design. By the way, I'm gonna say this now, but fuck the original person who made the original Dormitibus. That person is evil, and I do not condone the things that they did. I just borrowed the designs because I love them. Anyway, PSA aside, and then I did some other miscellaneous designs. Like I made a version off of Bendy and the Ink Machine. I made like an ink Leafy. I also made a version inspired by Monokuma. Actually, I suppose fun fact, that Monokuma design I did was designed off of a Freddy versus Monokuma rap battle I heard, where there's an image in that in that video of a version of Freddy Fazbear that looks like Monokuma. I saw that. I thought it looked absolutely hilarious and absolutely genius. So I decided, you know what? I'm just gonna do that. Like I'm just gonna borrow that. And I felt like a genius when I did that, because like I thought it looked really cool. And the version of Leafy that I made using that idea, I thought looked really cool. Is it the best thing I've ever drawn? Absolutely not. And in hindsight, I kind of fucked up and did not make the general outlines a lighter gray. Because the normal I don't have the picture on me, but I made the outline like a normal, like a normal black instead of a light gray. Because what you'll notice on my DeviantArt displayed up in the top left corner is I have my DeviantArt displayed. I did there. No, hold on. Something right about this image, and I can't place my finger on what. Because you're like kneeling to get up. Yeah, okay. Hang on. I'm bad with proportions and posing and whatnot. Hence why I'm kind of overcomplicating this a bit. But anyway, what's that? Yeah, I made the outline with black instead of the light gray, like I usually end up doing with my shadow animatronics, and so it kind of looks bad when you make it like a black background with that PNG image. But anyway, I decided to translate all of those designs to the rest of my crew. Not um mostly because like I realize Leafy is my mascot, but sometimes I feel like I give too much to Leafy specifically because she's like the main mascot. I realize that's the kind of thing that happens with main mascots is they kind of usually end up getting the most trinkets and treasures and just like cool gimmicks because of that. That's why I look at things like Pikachu, because like Pikachu is there's nothing special about Pikachu, right? Like I hate to break it to you Pokemon fans out there. Speaking as a Pokemon fan, but there is nothing special about Pikachu, right? Like there is just straight up nothing special about Pikachu. But because of the fact that it's really popular, it became the series mascot. And because it's the series mascot, it got, like, a hell of a lot of special attention. And I kind of saw the same thing happening with Leafy. And, like, I'm not upset about it. Like, again, main character gets special attention. That's just something that happens. And that's not really something you can really... No, I was about to say that's not something you can really do anything about. Like, yeah, you can, because, like, my character, I designed them. But that's just sort of something that ends up happening with characters like that. And so I just decided to roll with it. But I didn't want to be, like, too obvious about it. So what I ended up doing was taking all of Leafy's designs and giving them to the rest of my crew. And what I mean by that is just doing the same treatment to the rest of my animatronics, like giving them withered versions, phantoms, nightmare, havoc, burnt. I didn't do every single one. Like there are still some designs I gave to Leafy that I haven't given to anyone else. And there are some where, like, technically I didn't give them to anyone else, but I gave them something similar. Namely, my AR costumes that I did. Because what I did was, instead of giving everyone the same design gimmick, I gave everyone their own unique one. Like, for example, Leafy is Victory, so she's, like, arcade machine themed, right? Like, some of her parts of her are pixelated, and... she has like a 8-bit crown on her chest. I really wish I had those pictures on hand. Can I grab those real quick? Actually, yeah. Actually, wait, hold on. No. Let me grab that. I can grab that actually, right? I think I can. Yeah, because they're right here. Yeah, here it is. Because if I do this... Yeah, here. This is the AR skin I gave to Leafy. Like, you can see pixelated. There's some colors. The 8-bit hand. Pixels up and down her body. Her stars, 8-bit. Her colors are wildly different. That kind of thing, you know? And I did the same, not like outline thing with you. God damn it. Anyway. But yeah, it's like this is her AR skin. But for all the other animatronics, I gave them something different. Like, my character Honey, I gave her a Honey design because her name is Honey. Yeah, Honey design. I am absolutely hilarious. Maybe not hilarious, but I thought it was funny. I felt smart about it, at least. Like, I felt that was a smart thing to do. It's hard to make this design both bend in and turn out. Might have over designed this character a little bit. Oh, I think that works. But anyway. Yeah, like everyone got their own AR skin. So like yeah, everyone got an AR skin. It's just what that AR skin is different for everyone. I also decided not to make those designs here, both because those things usually take me a lot longer than 3 hours, as does the original curse things. To be fair, because like I know I'm finishing the entirety of chapter 10 in 1 more hour, especially considering I haven't exactly made a whole lot of progress. That's just kind of the cost to doing art is it takes like a long time to do, which isn't bad. I should stress. It just makes it fun. It just means like I'm not really able to do like a speed paint sort of look when it comes to drawing on stream, because like I start at the beginning of the stream and I finish drawing by the end of it. I probably could do that if I made like other things outside of these designs, because I very well could. Because like just yesterday, I made a drawing based off of Sheik from Legend of Zelda, and that didn't really take me too long. When it comes to actually the drawing itself, it did take me all day, but that's because I wasn't really focused at it all day. I kind of was like on and off drawing it all day. So if I put my mind to it, I probably could have finished it within like 3 hours. I probably could have finished it in like something less than that. Yeah, like if I really wanted to. But by the way, uh, the reason why these legs are gonna look a little weird is because I designed this puppet character to have the same sort of flexibility that the puppet has in the FNAF Help Wanted. Because you know how in FNAF Help Wanted you see the puppet and they have like twisty bendy noodle arms that don't really have segments. Because you look at before Help Wanted, whenever you looked at a puppet model in stuff like SFM, you'll usually see, no, you'd always see the puppet has like typical like arm structure, right? They have a forearm, a lower arm, and the three fingers, and they usually only have like one elbow. And it usually always looked pretty weird because like we never got to see the puppet actually move, like actually move at all. So we don't really know what the puppet would have looked like if it like moved at all. Like would it have that one elbow or would it look like something else? But with FNAF VR, we got that answer, and it's basically spaghetti. It's just floating spaghetti. Which now I said, what was it with this franchise and making characters spaghetti? We got Ennard, we got a Molten Freddy, and now we got the puppet. Like, if I had a nickel for every time this character was either made of robot spaghetti or moved like robot spaghetti, I'd have 3 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it was weird that it's happened weird that it's happened 3 separate times. And 2 of those times were the same character. But anyway. Yeah, I wanted to give this character a sort of similar treatment. Honestly, in my mind, because it just made sense to do. Because, like, honestly, I always kind of had a pet peeve of those puppet models whenever they did the, like, single elbow trick. Like, yeah, it makes sense considering, again, we've never seen the thing move. But at the same time, though, this thing is like hyper thin. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for it to have the single elbow if it didn't have like a visible joint. Because like with all the other animatronics we see, like Toy Freddy, for example, Toy Freddy. Why is there just a random dot? Okay. Toy Freddy just has like a like single arm joints, like everyone else has, like you and me. So it makes sense that he would have the single solo arm joints, like like just normal. With the puppet though, they don't. Like their arms are single and continuous. So it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to have them do something like that. But that's what the models did. Now I'm not about to like say like they were dumb for doing so. Again, until VR, we've never seen the puppet like move at all. We only got to see still images, and we can only like theorize what it looked like when it moved. So it was limited resources that made that happen, but they made it work. Like they made it work. But the issue with that is that in doing so, they kind of made it look dumb. But with FNAF VR, it makes it look so much better. Because, like, yeah, that in my mind is what the puppet would look like by moving around. Because, like, yeah, it's like its arms are yeah, excuse me. The arms are like super thin and super long, so it makes more sense for it to have like the long noodle, um, like flexible fluid bending, as opposed to the basic ass elbow joint. Like it slithers like a snake rather than bends like a stick. You know what I mean? That is a horrible, god awful comparison, but you know what I mean. So yeah, that's why I'm designing these legs the way that they are. I'm not gonna give him the details he has, at least not yet, because I want to get his basic shape here first. Because like I said, I am not the best artist out there. So I usually end up kind of struggling a bit when it comes to making like proper proportions and shapes. Especially on this guy because I specialize a lot more in inorganic simple shapes, right? Like obviously because those are easier to do. And so that's why so many of my characters have like simplistic shapes, like stars, squares, circles. It's just easier for me to do. Right? And so I usually end up doing something like that. And again, proportion is a bitch. He's so lanky is the thing. That makes it hard to proportion properly because of the fact that he's just so lanky and his hips are non-existent. it's not hard to do. Like, I can do it. It's just kind of a little awkward to try and make it look good. I don't mind too much. Because like I said already, like, I'm not good. I'm also not trying to pretend that I am. Like, I have fun with it, and quite frankly, that's enough. Right? What's another conversation we can do? Okay, here's one. Sub or dub, personal policy. Personally, I don't really have a preference. My issue is whichever one I happen to listen to first is the one that I kind of get like stuck with, you know what I mean? Not stuck with, quote unquote, but more I get like sucked into. Although I suppose I usually also just have like a draw towards subs, or I mean dubs. Not because subs are worse by any stretch of imagination, no. Because again, they're both fine in and of themselves, right? They're both alright. My issue is that I have the attention span of a squirrel. And so whenever I'm doing stuff like drawing right now, I usually need something to help me focus. And I usually perform that via like listening to YouTube or anime. But with watching a sub, I can't really just have it in the background. I need to be able to actually follow what's going on, because I don't know if you noticed, can't exactly speak a lick of anything that's not English. And even then, I kind of stuck with English sometimes. But yeah, I was like, I don't understand Japanese, and so I need the subs to be able to follow along. And also a little bit, like, not to like harp on it, but I did try and listen to a dub anime once, and like, it wasn't bad. Or not once. I've listened to a couple. That looks terrible. I've listened to a couple anime dubs. The issue is just that whenever I did, I was already used to the English cast. I can think of 3 times where I've listened to the Japanese dub, and it kind of confused me. Not confused, but it sounded worse to me because of the fact that I was already accustomed to the English cast. And those 3 were One Punch Man, Persona 5, and Sonic. Sonic the Hedgehog, to be specific, because I just mentioned One Punch Man. Not Speed of Sound. I'm talking about the blue blur. Which I suppose would mean that Sonic is the purple blur, because he usually has purple, but whatever. Not what we're talking about. But I've tried listening to Japanese dubs for those 3. And I'd say that the most acceptable one to me, that just makes it sound bad. Not acceptable, but the one that to me sounded the most natural was the One Punch Man. But that's only because I've never seen One Punch Man. Like, I've never watched the anime. I hear pitchforks being sharpened at the second that thought left my mouth. I'm not saying it's bad, I was just never into it. Like, never interested. Because, like, it's an alright show. How do I describe this without getting everyone to hate me? More than they probably already do. I realize the point of One Punch Man is supposed to be that you're meeting a character you're meeting a character at their strongest when they start the journey. Because like Saitama is already at his peak, and he's already at the start of the series, right? It'd be like Goku could go Ultra Instinct against. It'd be like if Goku could go Ultra Instinct when he first met Bulma, right? Because like that's kind of the thing with One Punch Man, and I know that's intentional because that's kind of the entire point of One Punch Man as a series, is that like, oh, he's overpowered immediately, like, and he's just trying to like cope with that. So like, make no mistake, I understand it. It doesn't really necessarily mean I have to like it though, which I kind of don't. Because not only do I generally kind of prefer like more down to earth sort of abilities, stuff like you'd see in My Hero Academia, but I also kind of dig that sort of like challenge. You know, that's why I enjoy fight scenes, stuff like in the actual early Dragon Ball. Like you could see the struggle, especially against people like King Piccolo, because like Goku could not fight King Piccolo when they first met, and so he had to go through a bunch of training in order to actually be able to fight King Piccolo. And then when they have the rematch, Goku still almost loses, but he manages to just eke out a win. Like that sort of shit is believable. That makes sense, and it's also really cool looking. Because like he's on his last ropes, he's about to die, but then like, oh, he pulls out the super trick and he manages to win. And like that kind of thing. And like that's really cool. I enjoy that kind of thing. And then when it comes like down to earth power scaling, I look to things like, again, the early Dragon Ball, but also like My Hero Academia. Because like the most absurd we get to see something in My Hero Academia is simply when now keep in mind, I haven't seen all of My Hero. I think the last season I watched was season 5, I think. So I haven't seen like some of the, I know for a fact the first arc I haven't seen is the Paranormal Liberation arc. What was the last? And I know for a fact I stopped watching it because of the Japanese dub, which I didn't like. What was the last thing? Oh, it was it was the scene in where Hawks and not All Might Endeavor were fighting off. I think it was supposed to be like a super Nomu or something. Like they met for food. There was a super Nomu that appeared, and Endeavor fought it off and planned to actually sacrifice himself in order to beat it. Which, like, good for him. Can we talk about that for a second? Like, Endeavor's attempted redemption arc. Like, I get it. That's kind of what My Hero does. Is like nobody in that series is one-sided. Because, like, there's always depth to people. And I get that. And I love that about My Hero. Because, like, you write a villain well. And I'm going to love the villain, right? I'm not saying, like, every villain needs to be redeemed. No, no, no. Like, there are some villains that, write them as well as you want, they can't be redeemed. I actually look at most of the palace owners in Persona 5 for that. Because, like, no matter how well these guys are written, most of them are evil douchebags that I would rather see, let's just say, underground than in prison. But I'd say that My Hero still does a really good job with that sort of writing a villain really well. And Endeavor, I would agree to an extent. Like, he's still evil. But the thing I don't quite understand is why he tries to get a redemption arc. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'm also going to say it's not quite possible. Let me explain. I think when it comes to villains like Toga, their redemptions are also not really possible because of just how many lives they end up taking. With Endeavor, on the other hand, he doesn't kill anyone. He is sort of responsible, not only for the what might as well be psychological torture for a mother, but also just being an absolute douchebag of a dad. Cause like he says so himself. The only reason he had kids and the only reason he had so many was because he wanted the strongest kid to be a perfect blend of his fire and his wife's ice. He wanted a soldier, not a child. And so that's why so many of his kids kind of get neglected, because they weren't his ideal super soldier. Most of them had mostly ice powers, and they weren't enough. Now, I know Dabi is a Todoroki, a Todoroki, and I don't quite remember why he abandoned, why he left. I could be wrong. Or not wrong. I don't know. I know he left for some reason. I just don't know what that reason is. With but yeah, it's like he's not good, and you really can't redeem someone like that. So I suppose to give the show some credit, bravo for at least trying. Like, it's bold of them to try and do it. So I suppose I can give them something. But at the same time, though, like, this is Endeavor we're talking about. Like, there's no... there is just no redeeming that. I wouldn't say he's like absolute scumbag McGee, cause like he at least tries to redeem himself eventually, and so like props for trying. I give him that. But no. And that's also kind of why I look to the villains, to some of the villains of My Hero, because they are written fantastically, like Toga, Twice, Shigaraki himself. Quite frankly, I think there are only 2 villains in all of My Hero that I can remember off the top of my head. 4 villains in My Hero off top. No, wait, I was right the first time. There are 2 villains in My Hero that I don't think can be like redeemed at all, and those being Overhaul and All For One. Like All For One, like obviously he's not supposed to be like a redeemable type of villain. Like he's supposed to be the big evil Saturday morning cartoon bad, you know. So like yeah, obviously he's not getting redeemed because he doesn't want to. Like, he knows what he's doing, and he knows why he's doing it. It doesn't make him better, it just makes him confident? He's supposed to be like, no. Confident's not the word I'm looking for. But, like, he knows what he's doing. And so, like, he's not going to try and be redeemed because he doesn't want to be. Like, he just is a villain, right? And Overhaul, like, Sweet Arceus Overhaul What do I even say? Like, I'm just gonna be blunt. The way he treats Eri, that automatically puts him worthy of being underground, right? Like that alone, in and of itself, justifies him being in the ground. And I'm not even gonna pretend to be shy about that. Like, no. Like, I hate Overhaul. For the exact reason. For that reason alone. But also the way he, like, just casually tortures Eri to get the quirk cancellation bullet things. You're like, yeah, no. Like, that is just grade A evil scumbag through and through. Like, there's no redeeming that. But everyone else in My Hero, though, like, Toga, Twice, Shigaraki, like, they all have fantastic stories and backstories to the point where it's like you can't really bring yourself to hate them. Like, yeah, they do objectively awful things. Make no mistake. I look at a confrontation between Toga and Ochako, where Ochako is basically saying like, I can't forgive you for what you've done. I also can't completely be angry at you though. Cause like, I'm never for what did Ochako talk about? Hang on. Yeah, this is starting to bug me. It's like, what did she talk about? Yeah, like Ochako is treating Toga not as like a monster, but just like another girl, right? And I kind of think that scene works for it, or works with it, because like so often villains get reduced to stuff like that. Because like, yeah, obviously they are like a lot of villains are like just objectively evil. So like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, makes sense as to why. But My Hero has it done differently in the way that like you still feel for the villains, right? Like, yeah, they're still bad guys at the end of the day, but they're more than that. Like, they're more than just the villain. I look at Shigaraki for being the perfect example of that. Because, I'm not about to try and paint Shigaraki as being innocent or anything. Because, far from it. Like, the only things Shigaraki can really be, taken innocent for is the brief time where he gets, mind controlled or possessed or something. That's about the only time you can write him off as innocent, right? And, for obvious reasons. Like, he's not exactly in control of himself. But before that, though, it's he had every right to just not do anything, but he still, commits a bunch of atrocious acts, like murder and destruction and chaos and whatnot. But you also can't really say he's not justified in it. I think that's probably one of the best ways to describe a good villain. Because it's where, what they do is still wrong, but you also can't say that they're entirely within the wrong. Because again, I look at, Shigaraki. Because, yeah, he does a bunch of bad things. But that's also because you've seen this fucker's childhood. Honestly, and I think that's actually kind of what does the My Hero thing best, is because when you take a second to think about it, Shigaraki and Deku have quite the similar story. The only real difference is that Shigaraki actually had a quirk when he was born, and Deku didn't. But they still ended up having the same sort of thing. They're both discriminated against. Neither of them really have much of a family to speak of. In the case of Shigaraki, he doesn't have a family at all. And they both get, taken in by someone. And my thought is that if it weren't for All For One, Shigaraki probably would have ended up going to UA High and becoming a hero. Or at least maybe an anti-hero. Because I know I know it's probably a running gag in the anime community. So much of the series could have been ignored or prevented if they just had therapists. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the best way to put it. Yeah, because when you take a second to look at it, and that's why I kind of like the fan made villain Deku stories, because realistically, it's not exactly a wild concept for Deku to turn villain, you know. Because by all account, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's kind of amazing he doesn't. Now, I'm not saying that's the path the story should have gone down. I do enjoy Hero Deku. Mostly because it kind of tells a story. It's it's like the same thing as the phrase in Ratatouille, anyone can cook. Because it's not saying literally anyone can do it. It's just that someone who can do it can come from anywhere, right? And I think Deku is a good example of that. Not everyone can be a hero, but a good hero can come from anywhere. And Deku is a prime example of that because, yeah, he is a hero who just He's just a hero who happened to be born quirkless. I especially look at the example of the slime monster thing that kidnaps Bakugo. Especially with that example, actually, because like Deku had no quirk at the time. He didn't have all for one for all. Like he was just a normal ass kid at that point. But that didn't stop him from going bull fucking hog and trying to help Bakugo from not drowning. We're not being suffocated by a slime monster. Like, yeah, granted, he did nothing to help, and if anything, he got in the way of the, like, professional heroes. But, like, even powerless, he still did something. and, that's just impressive. Because, again, like, yeah, his contribution meant nothing. Like, he didn't actually save Bakugo or anything. All his contribution really did was get All Might to do something. But even then, that's still impressive. Like, yeah, like he knew what he was doing was stupid, and he even says himself, like his body is just moving on autopilot. Like there's not a single thought going through his head at that moment besides get up, like get up and run. But he still does it. But with villain Deku, like again, realistically, that kid's been through a lot. He's been bullied all his life. When you have a world full of like 80% of people who have a quirk, being quirkless is kind of pathetic, considering quirks usually sort of. The best way quirks usually work in that show is they usually give you a sort of leg up in life. To a degree, I suppose. Like, there are still quite a few non-quirked people in My Hero that don't exactly get treated well. Again, I'd look at people like Overhaul for an example of that, because like he's the second strongest hero and he still treats people like trash. Sometimes anyway. And even then, he's just an asshole. But still, like 80% of the population has a power and you just happen to not have a power. That's not exactly something you take easy. I look at the face Deku has the day after he's said to not have a quirk, when he's watching that video of All Might saving people. Like, that face says everything that's going through that kid's head. Not to mention, he gets bullied and abused, like, day in, day out by Bakugo. Which also I'm going to take a second to say, if you ship Baku Deku, I'm not going to say I hate you, but I'm going to say you could not be less wrong. You could not be more wrong. Like, I'm not going to say, like, Baku Deku is impossible to do. Like, it's technically possible to do. The issue with it, though, is that you'd have to have the story be written wildly differently for it to be sort of okay. And obviously the show itself doesn't really do that. Because, like, again, Bakugo fucking outright abuses Deku. Like, that's hardly even an exaggeration. Like, he just straight up, like, just takes every possible opportunity to just be the biggest douche to Deku. And again, I look at the example of Bakugo telling Deku to swan dive off the roof. You're like, that sentence alone kind of discredits the whole Baku Deku thing. Like, ignoring all the other bullying, that sentence alone discredits it, right? Like, I'm not saying... Like, again, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not saying you can't ship them. But I'm also saying you can't ship them. If that makes any sense. Like, it's just impossible to do. Like, they may not hate each other anymore, necessarily. But at the same time, though, Bakugo was abusive toward Deku. So, like, there's no way he can get a good relationship out of that. Like, the most you'd be able to do is at least get them to have, like, a friendship. I looked at what, I look at what Sonic and Shadow have now as a good example of that. Where, like, yeah, they're friends, but they're not exactly, like, best friends, you know? Like, they're just, like, they can work together pretty well. But regardless. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, Bakugo just abuses him day in, day out. He gets, he has no quirks, so everyone kind of hates him. Having a no quirk in a world of quirks kind of doesn't make... It's not making you useless. It's just kind of hard to be functional in a kind of world like that. I look at why is her name not coming to mind? I love the movie. Mirabelle from Encanto. I look at her as a perfect example of that. Because, you know, actually, it's actually a very similar story. Both are powerless, born into a place of superpowers. Huh. Anyway, like, I look at that as an example. Where Mirabelle, regardless of how much she tries to help, it still just kind of ends up being in the way, either by accident or on purpose. And you know, speaking of that, it's actually kind of funny, because I actually kind of think Mirabelle would also have a legitimate reason to be a villain. Huh. You just take a second to stop and think about these sorts of things, and you just come up with the wildest of ideas. But anyway, and not only what I already said, but when he finally gets to meet All Might, like, his hero is standing right in front of him, and Deku asks the question, like, even without a power, can I be a hero? And he gets cold turkey, cold clock denied right then and there. And you see them, like, it's only for a moment, but you can feel the devastation on his face when he gets told that. Because, like, all his life, he looked... Like, he looked at... Like, All Might looked at Deku square in the face. The hope in this kid's face was palpable. But then All Might just turned him down. Now, I get why, right? Like, I understand the reason. All Might was trying to protect the kid. Like, I get it. It makes sense, right? On paper, anyway. So, like, that checks out. Like, just trying to protect Deku, I get it. But the still issue with that is that, like, Deku's hero, the guy he looks up to, like, the most, just tells him, if you do not have this thing that you can't have, unless you're born with it, you can't be a hero. Like, Deku's one dream just gets shattered right then and there. And, like, again, All Might's only trying to protect Deku. So, like, I understand that. It makes sense. Fair enough. The issue, though, is, like, that's about it, right? Because, like, what's Deku supposed to do after that? And now, granted, yeah, he does the whole thing of running in, almost getting himself killed, trying to save Bakugo, which gets All Might to change his mind. Mostly because, like, yeah, that mirrors All Might's own story, so, like, I get it. And, like, happy conclusion, but at the same time, though, it's like, what do you do? And that's kind of where I like all the villain Deku stories to come from. Because I specifically remember one version of it from a music video where All Might, or All For One, reaches out to Deku and takes Deku under his wing. And like when you take a second to think about it, that's more or less sort of the exact same way that All For One gets Shigaraki on his side. Like, right? Because, like, Shigaraki has a power. But he kind of also believes that because of his power, like, both of them believing that their power, either Shigaraki's decay or Deku's lack of a quirk, makes them unable to be a hero. And then All For One swoops in and says, like, maybe you can't be a hero in the traditional sense. Like, maybe you can't be what they think as a hero, but I can turn you into something more. Like, something better. And I think that's why All For One's manipulation works so well. Both on Shigaraki in the main story and on Deku in villain Deku stories. Because, like, yeah, they both get rejected by society for different reasons, but they both end up with that rejection letter. For lack of a better term. And so they both end up doing the same thing. They both hate the society because let's be real, the society is kind of bass-backward in terms of, like, being without a power. And so they both kind of fight against the system. Again, for sort of different reasons, but ultimately with the same purpose. If quirks are the problem, then we'll show that our quirks don't define us. And actually, there's a story I wrote at one point about a villain that tries to employ, like, a quirk nuke, as I called it, that basically eliminated all quirks across the entirety of Japan. Because, like, it's the Syndrome way of thinking. Like, Syndrome from The Incredibles. Like, if everyone's super, then no one is. And so, but with my hero, it's because, like, you can't really go with that specifically because with my hero, it's not like 100% of the world has superpowers. Only 80%, I believe, does. So in a system like that, you're inherently developing some sort of like a bias, right? Not it's not like intentional, mind you. But it's just something that comes of consequence to a system like that. Like, yeah, it's not intentional to create that sort of like why can I think of the word? Discrimination system? It's just kind of something that's inherently built into a system like that. And so what my character did was basically say like, if no one has any powers, then that means everyone's on the same playing field, because suddenly what made people special is no longer around. And if that thing is no longer around, then that means that by comparison, no one's special anymore. So by that point, it comes to individuality. It's like, what can that person do without their quirk? And it makes people less reliant on quirks, both to do just day-to-day objectives, but also like with society. Like, there's no need for quirks anymore because no one has them. So by that point, quirks just kind of become a thing of the past. If it's not obvious, I really like writing stories. I may not be the best writer out there, but I like writing stories. Well, I actually look at a chapter I did a little bit ago called what I call it? I forgot what I called it. The verdant silence is what I called it. I look at that and I actually think that one's pretty well written. It's not like a the best story out there, but I like the concept. Like, it's a world overrun by plants, by like sentient plants trying to take the earth back from humans. And so because plants have a hard time surviving in the desert, humans are driven into said desert for protection. And then it becomes a story of a survivor being corrupted by the plants. I basically have two characters that break the norm of the world. A human who, because of corruption at an early point of the attack, effectively kind of becomes half plant. And so like she's still human. She's not like working for the plants, but everyone kind of treats her unfairly because of the fact that something happened to her that she didn't exactly have any control over. Because like, she didn't ask to be half a plant, right? That's not something she wanted. That's just something that kind of accidentally happened, and now she's just kind of have to live with it, while also making the best of helping the other humans, right? And then my other character is a plant that defects. Because I still don't quite have a 100% solid reason as to why they do. But the one I'm working with at the moment is in an attempt to grow into the desert in order to fully take over the planet. The plant people worked endlessly to create a plant that can survive the desert heat. And they eventually do. But the process of getting them to not only survive that desert heat, but be exposed to it, sort of disconnects them from the plant hive. You know what I mean? Like, I think the planets would be like a hive mind sort of thing. Where they're not like a hive, quote unquote, specifically. It's not like beehives where it's only the queen that thinks and everyone else just does what they're told. Like, everyone would have their own, like, self. Unless I wanted to do it like that. Like I said, I haven't fully developed this, what my ideas are for the story because I only have one chapter. But, it's a plant that, because of the desert and what it does to him, defects. And joins the human side because he's sort of at a point where it's like, yeah, they did a lot to hurt the planet, but the planet at this point still needs them. So it's like, it's kind of like, let's give them a chance to redeem themselves. You know, like he's looking for redeeming humans as opposed to exterminating them. Whereas obviously the rest of the planets are like, humans are to blame, kill all humans sort of thing. Like, more or less like the all those stories of like a sentient AI where they just kind of come to the conclusion like, oh, make the earth a better place to live in. Humans are the problem. Eliminate all humans. You know, when I make it simplistic like that, that's pretty much exactly what I did. Just make it plants instead of robots. Like I said, I'm not exactly the most creative person out there, but what are you gonna do? And before anyone says it, I don't intend to make it a romance story. I'm not saying no, but I'm not saying yes. If it does happen at some point, I'm not gonna steer away from it, but I'm also not gonna steer into it. You know, like what I like to do, like I was talking earlier in my stories, is I sort of have an end point and a beginning point planned out. It's the what happens in between that I usually sort of like to have a bit in the air. Because that's kind of the problem I see with other kinds of stories. Especially with stuff like Kingdom Hearts in particular. Is like those stories get fully written in the moment. Like there is not a single iota of thought when it comes to the future, right? Like it's just what's happening right this second. And they usually kind of end up suffering for that because the stories usually end up being a lot worse because of all the like plot holes, continuity errors, retcons you need to make. It's not impossible to do. It's just that with Kingdom Hearts, the way it's written kind of leads it to conflict with itself. I look at the time travel shenanigans in Dream Drop Distance and Kingdom Hearts 3 because of that. Like there were a lot of ways to have those people return without relying on time travel, especially because of the way that the time travel in Kingdom Hearts is said to be. Because like they convoluted it so hard. If they had thought it through, what they could have done for the nobodies returning from Kingdom Hearts 2, they could have just had it so like if a nobody stays dead for long enough without their respective Heartless also biting it, then they just reform. So like if let's say Sora beat up Demix and it was like a year since Demix's nobody died, but Demix's Heartless never faced the same fate, then Demix would just reform as he was when he lost. It's not a perfect solution, but I think that was probably an easy way to just kind of fix it. And then there's the also with the stuff of in Kingdom Hearts 1 where it's like only Sora can use a Keyblade, but then by the end of the series like everyone has one. Like that's a bit more forgivable considering that was the very first game in the series and they weren't exactly planning on making it anything past that. But that's still kind of just a product of its time that kind of ruins things a bit. That's why I like to think, both with Kingdom Hearts and with the Five Nights at Freddy's series, what needs to happen at some point is they sit down, remake all of those games, but when they're remaking the story, they remake the story knowing everything that we know now, incorporating everything that is now known to us. So, for example, in Kingdom Hearts 1, instead of saying that only Sora can use the Keyblade, they instead just say, oh, Keyblades are a special thing that only certain people are allowed access to. Because then it's still a special thing, but it allows room for other people to wield them. Like Ventus, Aqua, Terra. And with Ansem, instead of just appearing out of thin fucking air if you don't read the... Or with Ansem disappearing and never being mentioned again until he's brought back for Kingdom Hearts 3, what you do is just make Ansem like a being of pure darkness. Like, instead of him being dead permanently, he's just dead for the time being. Because, like, that I'll be back one day sort of cliche villain thing. Yeah, it's cliched, but it's better than time travel. Because then it still makes sense. Because at the point you fight him in Kingdom Hearts 1, Ansem pretty much is darkness. Excuse me. I don't usually talk this long, so my throat dries pretty quickly. And actually, that's something else they could have done. Is just make Ansem, instead of being a person at the end of the game, just make him like a being of pure darkness. To where it's like, as long as the darkness remains, so will he. And that's actually a really easy way to run him back, because what you do at that point is you just have someone tampering with the powers of darkness. And then that tampering is what brings Ansem back to do his thing in Kingdom Hearts 3. And then you do Kingdom Hearts 2, and like Xemnas could be the same way. Now, admittedly, with Xemnas, it becomes a bit harder to do because, like I said, because Kingdom Hearts says that if you kill a nobody and a heartless of somebody, the original person reforms. So it's hard to have Xemnas come back without Xehanort having to leave again. But then, no. That's what they could do, because that's how some of the organization members get explained. Is that they just turn back into nobodies. So what they could do is just like have Ansem kick the bucket. They could have Xemnas kick the bucket. Xehanort comes back. He does some background planning. He does some background thinking. He's involved in like maybe Dream Drop Distance. And after the events of Dream Drop Distance, something happens to where he gets separated back into a heartless and nobody, which lets Ansem and Xemnas do some of their villain things for Kingdom Hearts 3. They get their asses handed to them again. And then, And then just what you do after that is you fight them again. They reform immediately back into Xehanort. Because technically, I don't think the series ever says how long it takes someone to be reformed after the Heartless and Nobody are killed. So you just kill the Heartless, you kill Ansem again, kill Xemnas again. Xehanort reforms fully, and then he does the whole summoning the Keyblade and Kingdom Hearts, and then you fight him. And then you just kill the original. And obviously, without the original, nothing else can happen. By the way, while I have my last couple minutes here, can we take a second to acknowledge the fact that the game tried to give Xemnas a redemption? It's the same thing I say with Endeavor, and because like they try to give him one, it is not even remotely justified. Like with Endeavor, he at least tries to be better. So you can say like there's some justification in it. But like Ansem Xehanort, the entire time he was doing what he was doing, he knew exactly what he was doing. There is not an ounce of remorse in him. And yet they still try to give him the whole I was doing what I think was right shtick. And it's like, no, motherfucker, you knew exactly what the hell you were doing. And again, I also look to Endeavor for that, because like Endeavor also knew what he was doing and still did it. So like, you can't redeem that. And I love Kingdom Hearts as a franchise, but fucking god, this story sucks. They really should have spent some more time thinking about it. To borrow a quote from Chain of Memories, I believe. You gotta think. I think Goofy says it, but like, sometimes you gotta think ahead about these things. It's like, yeah, they really should have, but they didn't, and it kind of led to the absolute clusterfuck that is Kingdom Hearts' story. Not to say it's like impossible to explain. I'm pretty sure I just did. Yeah, like I just did. But it takes like a lot of bullshit in order to make it like feasible. To where it's like you could have just explained it better. And also not made it bullshit. And it's little things about that. It's the little things that I kind of nitpick a bit in games like that. Because like I said, I've gotten a bit involved. I've gotten involved with storytelling because of stuff like the original Curse, the Verdant Silence, and just because I love Kingdom Hearts and FNAF. And so I think it's like they should have had the better writing to begin with, and it's not hard to fix the writing. Because like I said, the easy answer is to just remake the games. And you don't even have to remake the game wholesale. Like, I think FNAF should do it, but that's because FNAF is a lot simpler of a game to remake than something like Kingdom Hearts is. Because Kingdom Hearts is a fully fledged JRPG. Like, that's not exactly the most simple thing to remake, which is fair. I think they could do it, and I think they probably should for, like, an anniversary title, because at that point, the effort would be justified, because, like, hey, it's celebrating it's celebrating the series. Like, that's a good as time as any to do something that big for the series. Like, we're celebrating it, but anyway. At that point, they remake the games, and they retell the story knowing everything we do now. So, like, at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, we would get a glimpse of Aqua in the Realm of Darkness, or Mickey would mention Aqua, or Mickey would actually be involved with the game's fucking story. I know the IRL reason why Mickey wasn't involved in the story of the original Kingdom Hearts. Disney wouldn't exactly... nobody was sure whether or not Kingdom Hearts would actually be popular, and so they didn't have him be involved until the ending. Just at in hopes that they didn't like ruin the brand or anything. But then when Kingdom Hearts became super popular, they're like, okay, this is a thing now, so we need Mickey to be more involved. Hence his roles in the future of the series, right? So yeah, that's fair. But then also, again, with this remake thing, they would know what we do now. Like, hey, Kingdom Hearts is hella fucking popular. So it's not going to matter whether or not Mickey is involved in the entire series or not. And again, it could be like, oh, they're retconning the entire story, meaning like, oh, the story before now is entirely irrelevant. And to be fair, yeah, it kind of would be entirely irrelevant. But that'd be the point. Because like like the original story was made as it was going, meaning, and what we're doing now is effectively retconning a story, both to make more sense, to explain it better, add some details that weren't there before, just kind of like clean it up, fix it out, flatten it out, iron out the bugs, and just make it something that works. I'm amazed I managed to get 3 hours out of this without a co-host. I thought I'd have to end it too. But anyway. Yeah, this is a simple thing, and I'm definitely going to be doing it again. I'm definitely doing it again. Like I said, I'm not going to be doing the drawing of the animatronics on screen, because, I don't know, that doesn't quite feel as interesting as making original Curse assets. So yeah, I'm just gonna be doing original Curse assets for this, for whenever I decide to art. But yeah, thank you all, lovely people, so much for watching, and I shall see you all on the next show. But first, ignore the coughing dog. I have a raid to do. I've got someone to raid. Yeah, I gotta raid someone. I just need to find out who to raid. You know what? Let me find someone. I know what I want to raid to. I just need to find someone who's doing it. I don't normally like raiding to stuff like this, but this is important, especially today. Yeah, especially with stuff like today. Okay. Never mind. Okay, that raid didn't work. I'm gonna find someone who can. I'm not gonna be able to read any of these guys, alright. Alright, that didn't work. I wanted to raid someone who was doing the who was looking at the no kings protest. I think I just did actually. I did actually. Can I read? Yes, I can. No, actually, I shouldn't. Yeah, I shouldn't do that. I'd like to, considering it's kind of important. But I can't find anyone like doing so that's like big. Let me do this one. Alright, like I said, thank you all so much for watching. I shall see you all in the next show. Stay tuned.